Good morning, church family. God spoke to my heart when my son Dalton was going through a difficult time in his life and wanted me to share my testimony with you all. Growing up, I was raised in a Christian home. My sister and I attended church with my dad at the Bible Baptist Church in Tyrone. When heading into high school, the 7th grade, my dad was blessed to be able to send me and my sister to a Christian private school at the Bible Baptist. I attended private school my 7th, 8th, and 9th grade until the school unfortunately closed. Before heading into 7th grade, right around 13 years old, I remember oh so well the night Pastor Jack Parks showed the movie The Mark of the Beast. This is the night that my life changed. After watching that movie is when I knew I wanted God to be in my life forever. That night was so clear to me that Jesus alone could bring meaning and purpose to my life. At the end of the service, I took that step and prayed that prayer with Pastor Jack Parks and accepted Jesus Christ into my life. I believe Jesus died on the cross for my sins and that he rose from the dead. Not long after I was saved, I then got baptized. I can't say life was always great growing up. My parents had more downs than ups. The relationship wasn't healthy, and at the age of 18, my parents divorced after 21 years of marriage. I didn't take the divorce well, and I was very confused and blamed God on the divorce. I had anger, I was confused, frustrated, and sad because I knew God didn't permit divorces and couldn't understand why he wouldn't restore their marriage. I didn't have the emotional support, and I drifted away from God, letting the devil take control and keeping me from the church and my faith. At age 19, I met Rick, and at 21, we married. I was still not living my faith to the fullest, and then was married to a man that was not saved. My dad's heart was so broken, and I knew he longed for the day that his girls would go back to church, restore their faith, and wanted his son-in-law to know Christ. Rick would get so angry if my dad brought up God, and he wanted no part of God. I knew deep in my heart that my faith should be a priority and that this is where God wanted me to be, but I still had doubts, and that the devil was still winning. Our lives surely had some challenges and struggles along the way. To name a few, in 1993, Rick and I had a miscarriage and lost our first child. In 1997, Rick and I's marriage was rocky, and we separated after a few months, then reunited. 2004, I lost my job, causing me to go into Great Depression. Then Rick lost his job in 2003. At the age of 31, I lost my mom, my best friend, the lady I loved more than life, on my son Tristan's 3rd birthday. A few years back, Rick, my husband, was in the wrong place at the wrong time with an incident involving a coach from the school. This incident caused so many heartaches, embarrassment, extra court costs, stress, and the not knowing. Rick never had the opportunity to give his side of the story. This legal issue went on for 2 years until it was settled. My husband no longer had the opportunity to cherish any school functions with our children. It was one of the hardest things to watch my husband's heart break and watch tears in his eyes when I left for these alone. This whole ordeal was not fair, and we didn't understand why this was happening to us. God walked us through this difficult time and kept us stronger than ever. In the end, even though it may not have been the ending we wanted, God helped us through and made Rick and I stronger people. Rick had to volunteer his time for community service at our local food bank for a couple years during his legal issues, and he continues to volunteer his day off at the food bank. This is where God has called him. In 2015, my son Dalton started going to church with my dad here at Grace. Dalton asked God into his heart and got saved. Not long after he got saved, he then got baptized in the presence of Pastor Roy. That day was the best day of our lives. Dalton said, "Mom and Dad, I want to invite you to come to church and watch me get baptized." Ever since that day, we have been coming to Grace. I then repented of my sins and asked God to never let the devil lead me off track, no matter what disappointments come my way. I knew deep in my heart that this is where I needed to be, and this is where God wanted me to be. And I knew that this would make my dad's heart full of love. In 2016, Rick accepted God into his heart, and him and my middle son Tristan were baptized at the Little Juniata River in the presence of Pastor Roy and Pastor Aaron. I was so blessed and grateful that I now knew my husband was going to heaven with me and my whole family. Everything seemed so complete, and God was blessing my family every single day. In 2017, it seemed like my family and I had another setback. Dalton, my oldest son, was falsely accused by inmates at the local prison he worked at for only a short period of time. We were back to all the fears, the tears, the disappointments, the discouragements, the embarrassment, the not knowing what was going to happen to him. I then thought, why God? I couldn't understand, because Dalton's night at the prison was ensuring everyone was safe. He constantly quoted scriptures to many inmates. He saved lives. He came home nightly, waking me up at 2 a.m. in the morning, crying to me that he had so many men, young and old, on his mind. I never thought I would be helping my 23-year-old go through something so bad. I couldn't understand who would say these lies about the most caring, generous, soft-hearted boy that Rick and I raised. I knew I couldn't heal him or take any of his pain or fears away. As a mother, I felt so helpless. My family, his wife, and close friends went through this almost for 2 years of not knowing, and endless money for his lawyer fees, time and time again, sitting in the courtrooms, observing the evil atmosphere that you don't wish for your child to have to observe ever. Just to hear the judge or the lawyer say, his case has been continued, you can go home. The long rides back home, looking over at my son, looking out the car windows, sobbing that all he wanted was his life back to normal, and for all this to go away. All I could do is touch his shoulder and say, it's going to be okay, I love you, Dol. Tons of prayers, love, support from many poured out for my son and my family. I had very special people who was going through similar situations that I leaned on weekly. You know who you are. I love you for all our talks, cries, and hugs. This meant so much to me. We leaned on our Lord Jesus Christ through this. I knew and felt it the whole time that God was on our side, and many nights I cried myself to sleep, and God told me it was going to be okay. Finally, on July 20th, 2019, Dalton took his no contest plea, and God made it happen that Dalton did not have to leave his family, his wife, and his daughter to go to the state prison for many years. He can finally move on with his life and place this horrific ordeal behind him. So, ending my testimony to you all, a few things I have learned out of life and difficulties is never let God go, because God will never give up on us. I will be with you when you pass through the waters, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not overwhelm you. You will not be scorched when you walk through the fire, and the flame will not burn you. Isaiah 43:2. This verse said it all to me, and it will forever be one of my favorite scriptures. I truly believe all the disappointments through life that I just shared in my testimony with you were meant for 3 reasons. And I think 1, God wanted to transform my character. Sometimes God will use bad situations in our lives to transform our character to be more like His Son. 2, to prepare me or my family for bigger plans. God permitted these trials to happen for certain reasons. Could it be to help and encourage someone else going through rough times? 3, to save my life. I can honestly say I haven't made some best decisions. I know God will keep me on track and avoid any more major collisions in my life journey. This is what God spoke to my heart. Just because I don't respond to your prayers the way you want me to doesn't mean I don't care. Just because I don't bring your trials to end doesn't mean that I'm not listening. When you're going through difficult circumstances, don't walk away from me. I love you, care for you, and I'm going to be here for you every step of the way. So from the bottom of my family's heart, we thank our church family for all the love, the support, the prayers, thoughts, calls, texts, emails you have given us these past couple years of our difficult trials. We love each and every one of you. God bless.